Over 200 young prisoners executed in DR Congo. This isn't a dystopian novel. This is real life in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Stay with me as we uncover the horrifying truth behind the mass executions of young prisoners in DR Congo and explore the political, social, and historical forces driving this tragedy. Imagine being a young prisoner, already condemned to the grim realities of incarceration. Now, imagine facing a fate even worse, execution without trial, justice or mercy. A nation grappling with a broken justice system, political manipulation, and decades of conflict. But today, we dive even deeper. How do these atrocities fit into the larger picture of systemic corruption, international complicity, and the relentless struggle for human rights? One of the biggest drivers of injustice in DR Congo is corruption. It's an open secret that public officials, those who are supposed to uphold the law, are often the ones breaking it. Bribes influence every level of the justice system, from police officers to prison wardens to judges. And it doesn't stop there. DR Congo's vast mineral wealth is both a blessing and a curse. Mining companies, both domestic and international, pump billions of dollars out of the country, but little of it reaches the people. Instead, this wealth fuels a corrupt elite who use it to maintain power while ignoring the suffering of ordinary citizens. This latest tragedy, the mass execution of young prisoners, is not an isolated event. It's part of a broader cycle of systemic failures and political exploitation. Reports from human rights organizations suggest that dozens, perhaps hundreds, of young prisoners have been executed in recent months. The details are harrowing: summary executions, overcrowded prison conditions, and allegations of state involvement. So, how did we get here? To understand the crisis, we must first look at the Congolese justice system, or lack thereof. DR Congo's prisons are infamous for their horrific conditions: extreme overcrowding, malnutrition, and disease. But this isn't just about poor infrastructure. It's about systemic corruption. Judges are often bribed, trials are delayed indefinitely, and for many young prisoners, their incarceration begins with unlawful arrests, sometimes for minor offenses like theft or simply being in the wrong place at the wrong time. These young people become scapegoats, caught in a system that prioritizes power over justice. But why the executions? Why now? Experts point to a chilling possibility: political manipulation. In a nation plagued by conflict, the government faces immense pressure to project strength. These mass executions could be a brutal display of power aimed at silencing dissent and instilling fear. It's not just about internal politics. DR Congo is under international scrutiny, especially for its human rights record. These executions might also serve as a distraction from other scandals, such as corruption in the mining sector or ongoing rebel insurgencies. Behind the numbers are real people. Take the story of Jean-Pierre, a 19-year-old accused of theft without evidence. He was dragged from his cell and executed without a trial. His family is left devastated, seeking justice in a system that seems designed to deny it. Jean-Pierre's story is just one of many. These young prisoners are not criminals. They are victims of a system that has failed them at every turn. To truly understand these executions, we need to step back and look at DR Congo's broader struggles. The country has been mired in conflict for decades, with armed groups vying for control over its lucrative minerals. These conflicts have displaced millions and created a climate of fear and mistrust. And let's not forget the international angle. Global corporations benefit from DR Congo's resources, while the international community largely turns a blind eye to the human cost. Are these executions just another chapter in a long history of exploitation? But DR Congo's problems aren't just internal. Let's talk about the elephant in the room: international complicity. For years, Western nations and multinational corporations have benefited from Congo's chaos. The demand for cobalt, coltan, and other minerals critical for tech products like smartphones and electric vehicles, has created a market that thrives on instability. Think about it. If stability brought accountability, these companies might have to pay fair wages, follow environmental standards, or stop funding armed groups. But instability, it's profitable. The question is, are these mass executions just another byproduct of a system designed to exploit Congo? Now let's talk about armed groups. While the government is often the main actor in these executions, armed militias also play a significant role. These groups control large swathes of the countryside, exploiting the lawlessness to commit atrocities and recruit young people, sometimes the same young prisoners who escape the justice system. This creates a vicious cycle. Young people, desperate for survival, join militias, only to become targets for both the government and rival groups. And the lines between criminal and victim blur further. Despite the scale of these atrocities, global media coverage remains minimal. Why? Because stories like these don't generate clicks. In a world dominated by short attention spans and sensational headlines, the systematic suffering of people in DR Congo is overshadowed by more marketable crises. This silence enables the perpetrators. Without international outrage, there's no pressure on governments or corporations to change, and without pressure, the cycle continues. Now let's talk about the man at the center of it all, Constant Mutamba. He's no stranger to the intricacies of the DRC's legal and political landscape. Known for his pragmatic approach, Mutamba has a reputation for balancing firmness with diplomacy. But make no mistake, he has his work cut out for him. From addressing public skepticism to managing international scrutiny, Mutamba's leadership will be pivotal in navigating the DRC through these choppy waters. When Constant Mutamba has been appointed the new Minister of Justice for the Democratic Republic of the Congo, DRC, following approval by President Felix Tshisekedi. This appointment comes at a critical time for the nation's justice system, as the government intensifies its efforts to address rising instability and insecurity. In a strong demonstration of its commitment to combating crime, the DRC has issued severe sentences to over 200 individuals associated with the notorious Kulunas group. These individuals were convicted of grave offenses, including serious human rights violations and acts that endangered public safety in the Kinshasa region. Officials have described the sentences as a reflection of the serious nature of the crimes and part of a broader effort to restore order in a country facing widespread unrest. While some view the government's actions as a necessary step to ensure public safety, they are expected to draw scrutiny from human rights advocates due to global trends against such punitive measures. Mutamba's leadership will be central to implementing justice reforms and strengthening the system as the DRC navigates these complex challenges. This moment isn't just about one man or one group. It's about the future of the DRC. As the government steps up efforts to combat crime and instability, it's also grappling with deep systemic issues. Justice reform, corruption, and human rights concerns are all intertwined. According to government sources, these inmates were part of a plot to escape or posed a threat to national stability. But human rights groups and local activists tell a different story. They allege that this was a premeditated massacre aimed at silencing dissent or covering up deeper systemic abuses. And let's not forget the regional context. The DRC sits at the heart of Africa with a wealth of resources and strategic importance. Stability here doesn't just impact the Congolese, it matters for the entire continent. The DRC has seen this playbook before. Investigations are announced, blame is deflected, and the world moves on. But will this time be different? Will these 200 young lives finally spark real change? That brings us to the million-dollar question: who's to blame? Was this a rogue operation by local prison authorities, or does responsibility go higher up the chain? Some reports hint at orders from high-ranking officials, while others point to militia infiltration of the prison system. This isn't an isolated incident. The system itself is designed to dehumanize, and that's why accountability is so rare. This story isn't just about the lives lost, it's about the lives still at risk. If this video moved you, share it. Talk about it. Reach out to organizations like Human Rights Watch or Amnesty International to learn how you can help, because silence is complicity and the people of Congo deserve better. Real change requires pressure from all sides. Governments, NGOs, and yes, people like us. Sharing these stories, raising awareness, and demanding action can make a difference. The mass executions in DR Congo are a symptom of a deeper problem, one that won't be solved overnight. But we can't afford to look away. Share this video, educate yourself, and let's stand in solidarity with those fighting for justice. Together, we can make sure the voices of these young prisoners are not forgotten. So what's next for the DRC? Will Constant Mutamba steer the justice system toward meaningful reform, or will the challenges prove too great? One thing's for sure, this is a story we all need to watch closely. What do you think of Mutamba's judgment and the government's actions against the Kulunas and mass executions of young prisoners? Let's keep the conversation going. If you found this breakdown helpful, hit that like button and subscribe.